Chapter 1: A New Beginning. The world was ravaged by disease. Many military leaders began grabbing what land they could. I took control of North Mexico and California. I ruled North Mexico myself and appointed a general to lead California. I would finally get my chance to fulfill my dream of reuniting Mexico. Tensions were high between Asia and America, with America wanting to fight against Asia and Asia wanting to fight against America. Chapter 2: Civil War. Back at home, North and South Mexico accidentally fired at each other at Tampico. Just like that, the Mexican Civil War had begun. Both sides were at a stalemate for 3 days, but eventually my troops broke through. A war that had lasted 3 days ended in 1. After the Civil War, I went on brief campaigns to take parts of Texas and Arizona. Chapter 3: Looking East. My allies and I had secured North America. Now was time to start looking eastward. Our first target would be Hawaii. It would be able to give us a warning if any enemy attack would come. Our island hopping campaign was a success. Within a few days, we took Hawaii, Sand Island, Johnston Atoll, Kiribati, Tahiti, Cook Islands, and Micronesia. Chapter 4: A Diplomatic Disaster. The trouble started when I started sending fake messages to North India and Tibet, telling each other that the other wanted to attack them. In life, when you make mistakes, you can either make it again, or you can change your ways. I decided, instead of starting conflicts, I would become a pacifist and help those less fortunate than me. I wrote a statement called the Declaration of Peace. It said, "A better world. I want to apologize for any wrongdoing I might have committed, but I think we should just put the past behind us. I want the future of this world to be bright, peaceful, and prosperous. We should strive towards peace and unity instead of war and destruction. Us powerful nations should help the smaller nations to prosper and stay protected. All nations should cut back on military spending and invest in buildings. After all, we should build up and not tear down. All wars should end and enemies should become allies and foes should become friends. If you stand with me and believe in a better world, join me and together we can make a change. I am not afraid to fight, as some might say, but I believe war should be a last resort. Before you make rash decisions, pause and consider what effects will your actions have on you and on your fellow man." South Manchukuo was inspired by the essay and decided to work for a better world as well. In response to my declaration, Tibet immediately declared war on Mongolia. I did everything I could to help Mongolia defend. I gave them resources, wrote articles, and tried to get allies. All my allies, however, told me to stop meddling in Asian affairs and go back to North America. I had no choice but to deploy the heavily damaged and disorganized Pacific Fleet. I sent the Pacific Fleet to ambush North India, but little did I know that he was waiting for me. My defeat was all over the newspaper. I had lost 2 aircraft carriers, 4 planes, 2 battleships, and 7 convoys. At this point, I felt like giving up, but I didn't. In just an hour, I had more than replenished my losses. I built destroyers to combat submarines. I also began seizing Indian ports so they couldn't create new ships. Built some more aircraft carriers. And now I was ready for war. Despite the rebuild, we continued to suffer defeat after defeat. Our first major victory came at Shanghai. In that battle, we had eliminated 12 Indian submarines and had only lost 1 destroyer and 1 battleship. The war was in our favor until Chapter 5: World War III. British Odisha had joined the war. Now we were not only up against Tibet and North India, but British Odisha as well. We still had Siberia, Mongolia, South Manchukuo, me, California, and the rest of my coalition. But would that be enough? I made peace with my enemies to try to stall for reinforcements. During this time, they even offered to ally with me, but I knew that I would never betray my allies. California brought in loads of reinforcements. We were going to try to strike at India first and knock them out of the war, then advance to British Odisha. We would have to hurry though, because British Odisha, Tibet, and North India had already eliminated Siberia and Mongolia from the war. South Manchukuo and West Yakutia were desperately fighting for their survival. Our troops were finally ready, and the invasion was happening. Many of you are probably wondering how I won so fast. Well, the secret is I was allies with British Odisha all along. To get ahead, you need to know how to do something called betrayal. I started backstabbing allies left and right. First, South Manchukuo, next, New Mexico, then Alberta. After dominating the Pacific, I thought that my war days were over. But then I received a letter that said, "Your uncle has seized your lands in Italy and has lost them. Come bring peace."